Hello, my name is Dante Renee, and welcome to the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more. Like tonight's film, 1984's Throat. 12 years after, a reflection, not a sequel. Here it is, folks, 1984's Throat, 12 years after. And they're referring to the infamous adult film Deep Throat. Now, this is put out by Vinegar Syndrome on Blu-ray and DVD from the negative. Unbelievable, always, as always. Here's the back of the set right here. Hard to see some of the photos, but you get to see a nice little glimpse of this right here. And great font for the title of the movie. And we have Joanna Storm, Sharon Mitchell, Joey Silvera, just to name a few. And this is a film by Gerard Damiano. And actually, the cinematography is from Larry Ravine, who did Vinegar Syndrome's distributed Corruption as well, with probably many others. Great special features on here, but let's get into this movie. This is a wild adult film right here, folks. Throat, 12 years after, a reflection, not a sequel. Let's get into this movie here, because this movie details three couples and three couples' relationship issues and their connections with each other, journeys, adventures, both or emotional, psychological, physical, sexual. Let's look at this film right here. I'm going to get into everything from the music to the style and cinematography to the characters to the themes, maybe a couple quotes, and more. Let's get into this. I got some notes written down, so you might see my eyes divert. Let's get into 1984's Throat, 12 years after. Whew, this is a wild one, folks. We start off this film with some almost Sade sounding funk and disco. It's so interesting because really all the music in this film does not sound like 1984 to me. It really sounds 70s because it's really has a disco core to it, and it's unbelievable, and we're going to get more into that later. This is a New York City movie. Hands down. There are amazing New York City shots in the opening credits, aerial shots. This is New York City, pure and simple, X-rated film, New York City. We have some interesting things going on in the beginning of this film, dealing with you hear the narration of a man's conscience. That's pretty interesting stuff right there. Never really seen that before. We have the idea of a sex-starved marriage where the wives are kind of boring sexually and the man wants more. We have this great section of the film that deals with red blinking lights and bubble gum. Very interesting stuff. And the bubble gum is from a prostitute. I believe Sharon Mitchell is her name. Unbelievable. And this is a film of flashbacks. It's very interesting the way flashbacks are utilized in this film. And more on that a little bit later as well. We have a cheerleader in this film. We have some music that almost sounds like a music box at times. A little bit mysterious, a little bit creepy, a little bit. We have interesting themes dealing with raising a family versus sex versus life. Is sex just for men when you are married? Some pretty weighty relationship themes in here. Do you need to raise a family? Do you need to have kids? Is that part of what you just do in life? Very interesting things. We have unbelievable acting in this movie. Really great stuff. Very convincing. I wanted to bring this up myself. Kind of the themes of married homemade muffins versus hooker bubblegum. Yes, the two separate worlds of marriage and kind of the other world of kind of sexual wildness. An interesting kind of quote in this movie, in a way, is that people drift apart in inches. In inches. We have some real kind of quirky fun in here. A couple, the dialogue can be kind of quirky and wild and sucker punchy in a way. Surprising, entertaining, interesting. We have a soundtrack that is mostly has vocals and main themes to it. And in one particular scenario, we have the vocals having reverb. So we have disco and funk. There's some really interesting things. Another theme about communication. A couple communicating about what they want sexually. And also the element of shame. And also the element of our conditioning as children and as we are raised on the dirtiness of sex. And then all of a sudden one day you, as the movie says, get married and you can't shake that dirty vibe off of you. We have interesting, at least one fade to white in this movie. This wild edit in the film of a woman changing outfits, and she keeps disappearing in the edit. And you know right off the bat there that we are working with a film that's going to be doing some pretty wild things stylistically, and this film definitely has that. She just kind of disappears each time, and with the music, it's really special. This woman right here, I know it's hard to see. This woman right here, kind of like the black fro a little bit. I think her name might be Michelle Marin. I'm not exactly sure. She's fantastic. She looks great. Body, acting, her character, the way she acts, quirky, weird, interesting. We have some Pink Panther-like jazz music in here. We even have some fades to black. We have fades to white. We have fades to black. The concept and the idea of dirty talk is in this film as well. 70s sounding ballads in this movie. We have a great quote here. A great quote. This is a wild, wild quote, so get ready. I'm gonna wash that beautiful cock of yours with my mouth. Yes, we have, this is, I gotta tell you folks, Throat is a dramatically intense movie, and it's represented by also dramatically intense and sexy music throughout the entire film. We have a wild shower head, okay, the shower head, a shower head blowjob, the likes of which I've never seen before. I will tell you, this is another quote in the film, kind of a little bit, maybe not totally exact, I couldn't get all the words, but people spend their lives looking for the perfect fuck. We have another theme in here of paying for sex and the advantages of paying for sex. That's actually something that comes up a few times in the film. The interesting thing with flashbacks in this movie, in Throat, the interesting thing with flashbacks is that it'll happen, the flashbacks will be about previous sexual adventures, and they're being talked about in the present while characters are having sex. So it's very, very interesting. So you're having sex with somebody in the present, and you're talking to them about your sexual adventures with somebody else in the past, and you're getting off on it in the present, and you get the flashbacks and go back and forth. Very, very interesting. And the intensity of the flashback also echoes and moves and flows with the intensity of the current sex that you are having. We definitely have a few instances of here of people saying to ejaculate inside of them, coming inside. That's not something you typically see in X-rated films. Typically, it's on, we're seeing the ejaculation. Sharon Kane in this movie, she's also in here, has some of the dirtiest, wildest talking I have ever heard in a film. She's insane. She is through the roof. She is wild, sexy, energetically off the hinges, Sharon Kane. We even get a shot of a vagina with the sperm on it or coming out of it, okay? This is a movie of different couples, as I mentioned at the beginning of the film. And we got another quote here. If Manhattan were shaped like a cow, this would be the rectum. I believe that's almost the exact quote. Talking about a particular location. If Manhattan were in the shape of a cow, this would be the rectum. We have nipple mugs. Yes, tit mugs. We have glasses of petrified panty piss. Alcoholic drinks where your server ejaculates into your cup, your tip mug, actually. It costs a bit extra, though. Disco, a club called Club Sewer, down in the dungeon depths. And Club Sewer has its own disco song mentioned there. And I gotta tell you, folks, get ready. There are porno disco lyrics in this film, echoing things that you're seeing on the screen, and they are just through the roof triple X lyrics and moaning and some of the most complex disco funk awesome atmospheric arrangements that I've heard. There really needs to be a soundtrack released on vinyl for this film. There's an upside down blowjob. There is a penis carousel. There is a long, wild Club Sewer powerful montage of sex just with music, and it's everywhere, and it's wild, and it's, I mean, it reaches a peak and a level, and it's insane, and different people, and anal, and oral, and orgies, and blinking lights and mirrors everywhere. Wild, wild type stuff. We have this slow motion ejaculation cum shot that goes into regular speed, and it brings this extremely bizarre effect with the motion of what you are watching. Mirrors and lights in a dungeon, in a sex dungeon. We have an interesting theme in here also of not feeling dirty as a positive thing, even if you are quote-unquote being dirty. And that definitely tends to be a theme in this film also of our conditioning of sex being dirty as children or as we were raised. And in this particular film, we also have the concept of you know, obviously free love and swingers, and kind of the makeup of swingers and what makes up swingers, but also the concept of, you know, feeling dirty is actually not a good thing. Very interesting. We connect all the couples in this film. We connect their stories. And we have a climax to this movie that, you know, seemingly when you're watching the film, you think the couples are all kind of, maybe it's an anthology film of some sort, and then you start to see their connections with each other. And I have to tell you that Throat has a dumbfounding avant-garde ending. That's all I'm going to say. In 4 pieces, interchanging, takes split screens to another level. It breaks the fourth wall. It's wild, experimental, beautiful, artistic, avant-garde. Folks, this is that last scene, unbelievable. This is 1984's Throat, 12 years after, a reflection, not a sequel. Wow. There's some power sex in this one. Thank you so much, folks, for what? I got to tell you one more thing. This is definitely an example of kind of that wild, off the hinges, experimental, artistic. It has a 70s feel. It doesn't feel 80s to me. Just powerful, dangerous X-rated film. Thank you so much for watching the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page, where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more, like 1984's Throat. Thank you so much, and good night.